expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Well, damn. Ooh, I should first of all go to silent mode here. As first of all, it is our first episode of any sort in 2025. Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. Congratulations on crossing over successfully into the new year. We made it sound like this is going to be a regular episode just now, but really it's just myself and James. And I guess perhaps this is always a good way, like as we start the next phase of all of this. I think James and I just thought it would be a good idea just to test drive doing a live stream again and doing a video version of the podcast again. So here we are with a little bit of new equipment, maybe it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those ongoing experiments, I think. And I did promise in 2025 we'd have more of a video component or a visual look. And you'll realize pretty quickly why we have faces for audio.
I thought you were going to say voices for radio there, Mike.
Oh, yeah, voices for radio. That too. Well, is it,
and we'll have the bumps along the way.
No kidding. But I thought we have to start somewhere or restart somewhere. And it's been what? It's been 3 years since we attempted doing any sort of video chat and live version since the end of 2021 and when we did the online version of Anime North. So maybe let's start again. And maybe it's appropriate we start all this again with just me and myself and James. So Mike Nicolas here in 6 points, James Austin at his little perch somewhere in Mississauga. Doesn't really want to tell you exactly where in Mississauga. Yeah. And it's sort of the way we restarted the show. It's now almost 7 years ago, I think, when we restarted the show back in 2008 or 2018, more like it. And I guess as we start all of this, we just want to give a little bit of an idea also what we plan now that we've gone into video. I did say I'll start doing a little bit more video game playing on Twitch. It's the big reason I never played any Yakuza games past Kiwami 1. I want to share it with everybody. And eventually I'll get to that. Maybe play something else in the meantime just to experiment before I dive into the Kiwami 2. So, well, what else do we start to want to bring up? The other thing is, the other reason is just myself and James, really. Mohammed, I know, has stuff on the go. Amy, I know, has stuff on the go, I presume. We know specifically what Kevin is up to today. He's at Anime Fiesta, a one-day con out east in Scarborough. That's what he told us, so he wouldn't be able to join us, and probably just as well, although he's probably the best looking of the three of us. The other assignment for everybody else is, at a point, I'm going to ask them to have a webcam and probably a slightly better microphone. So, we can see each other again. Okay. There were things that I know caught our attention, but admittedly, a lot of the headlines that came up in the last week are also things that I know that Amy, Mohammed, and especially Kevin can sink his teeth into. I know one of the talking pieces this week was Cloud9 CEO Takuya Chigura, who heads up the agency that Ado, an up and coming J-pop singer, is with, and he had some very interesting things to say. I want to talk with Kevin more at length on that one, maybe a little later or in the weeks to come. I only learned a little bit about Ado herself, though, through reading this. And in that interview, I know they talk a lot more about where J-pop could be headed in the future and how it stacks up in terms of the rest of Asian pop music. And that's an interesting thing. By the way, I know that there is one person watching in the live stream. I have no clue who you are, but thank you. I just want to acknowledge who's watching, because we're doing this all live.
It's either a glitch, Mike, or the algorithm working slowly.
Or it's Mohammed. Hey, Mo, what's up? Hope your weekend's going well. So that's, and what else is there to mention? That's the big one I know I really want to get into. And especially, and I know Kevin's more the resident Asian pop music guy. So yeah, seriously, what do you want to talk about, James? Where do we start with this little Space Eater chat? We got about an hour to chat.
Yeah, no, we have a bit we can talk about, and some of it is what's happened during the week, and I guess we could talk about the new season. I saw one show that I decided to watch that had a Kickstarter for it, and I know a lot of people have talked about the Dirty Pair Kickstarter and its foibles, so to speak, but the other one that's had quite a bit of problems, we have had issues with digital manga. They ran into trouble with their later Kickstarters, but another company, Frontwing, which people know them from their visual novels and stuff like that, at the 5 years ago, like 2018, 2019, I think even late 2017, they were doing some Kickstarters for their visual novels and stuff like that. And one of the ones I backed was actually they wanted to take one of their visual novels, Garcia Phantom Trigger, and turn it into an animation. They wanted to bypass the committee, like setting up a committee and that, and kind of do it themselves. You know what I mean? So they set up, I think, their own animation studio and stuff like that with that, or helped to get that going, or one of the people that had done the Garcia anime before. And I'm trying to remember. It was Bill. No, it wasn't that. It started with a B, but they had that. It was Bibury. So it's Beeberry Animation, and they did the 3 OVAs, and they're doing this new series.
I think I got the wrong video, wrong image here. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, you have to probably go search for Garcia if you want to try and find it. But anyway, the Garcia Animation, basically they've started on Crunchyroll, it's streaming worldwide, and I figured, okay, are they going to restart from the beginning of the visual novel? So there's about 8 visual novels in total and stuff like that. And when I went to watch on Crunchyroll, it was interesting how it starts with 120-second, or basically a 2-minute overview of the 3 previous OVAs, and then just drops the audience straight into the 4th visual novel. And there you go. There's the Kickstarter and stuff like that. So,
truth be told, I just had to scroll down a little bit, but
yeah. So originally with this, they did a Kickstarter campaign for the first 2 OVAs, and then for OVA 1, 2, and 3, they also did crowdfunding in Japan through Campfire and stuff like that. And so for this, like all their other, like they had some other Kickstarters. Some of them were basically taking their visual novels they had released on Steam and said, hey, we'll try to do a physical edition. So they tried to do it for Island, for example, and some others, and even for Garcia Phantom Trigger, the actual visual novel, some of them. But a lot of the physical items have never actually yet to be delivered. For example, this one, Garcia Phantom Trigger, the animation, all they've delivered. So we did, if you got your name in the at the end of the credits and stuff like that, it was there. So that was, I guess, nice. And then the other thing is we got the digital subtitle version of it. And how they decide to do it is Steam used to have the ability that not only buy games, before the pandemic, they started doing it where you could buy videos, right? Like you could buy anime or TV, like an episode of a TV series or things like that. So that's how they distributed the digital version to the Kickstarter backers. And they actually at one point said, oh, by the way, you better make sure you redeem your code because it'll go null and void and stuff like that. That was a few years ago. And then the last update, like basically since the pandemic, the updates have basically been, well, we're trying to get all these Kickstarters like figured out to get them like distributed to you for the physical like editions and stuff like that. And it just is a clown show. Like they basically are giving these non-answers, and we've never seen photos that anything has been produced. As you see there, Mike, English dub confirmed. That is another thing that's interesting because we've never actually seen the English dub. The English dub. So the English dub was done by Studio Cadence. They did announce who the dub actors and all that stuff were. They actually, in one of the updates on the Kickstarter, had like a 2 to 3 minute preview of the dub, and that's the only time we've seen the dub of the first episode. So we don't know what's going on with that dub. It's never been streamed. It's never been released anywhere. And that's for just episode 1 and 2 of the OVAs and stuff like that. And then in this time since 2018, Front Wing basically has been bought out by Bushy Road and stuff like that. And even then, with a bigger company probably helping them, nothing has come to fruition and stuff like that. And then the other funny thing recently, and it came to my attention through people on social media and stuff like that, on December 24th. So as I said, remember, they just threw you in to the new series on Crunchyroll and stuff like that, gave you 120 seconds of what this series was about. Basically for 2 weeks, and it wasn't even on the Front Wing YouTube, it was on the Bushy Road YouTube from starting December 24th for 2 weeks. They had up the subtitle version of OVA 1, 2, and 3. So I ended up rewatching them that way, and it was important for volume 3, the third episode, because that had never been kickstarted on Kickstarter. It was only through Campfire and stuff like that. So outside Japan, we hadn't really seen that. So a lot of people on this Kickstarter have basically come to call Front Wing Fraud Wing, and basically said, what the heck is going on? How can all these other Japanese creators on this platform, even with the pandemic, even with other issues, manage to get physical items out the door? We've seen it with La Mulana and Nigoro. We've seen it with Kenichi Sonata and his little short with the riding bean with that. And Gunsmith Cats, he did a little short and he managed to get it out the door. But these guys, just none of these Kickstarters, all the physical editions, nothing feels like it's happened. We've never had any photos or any evidence. And I know one of the Kickstarters, Tom, Tokyo Otaku Mode, was trying to help them. And I think they've given up on that one visual novel because they just can't seem to get answers from Front Wing. Like it seems like all the things that were in the beginning communicated through like a community manager they hired that was probably outside Japan. All those people are gone now. And it's just the Japan side trying to give these random updates that don't seem to amount to nothing. Like the last update was in February of 2024, and people are just in the comments roasting them, to put it nicely. And the other thing, to give some other context, one of the Kickstarters, like the Island Kickstarter, which had is a visual novel and stuff like that, and I ended up getting it instead of Steam. I got it on Switch, and that a physical one from Japan. But one of the rewards for that was they were going to do a Blu-ray for Island, and it would use the subtitles of Crunchyroll. It would be sub only. Guess what? Before Funimation and Crunchyroll merged into its big megacorp, guess what? Funimation was able to because they originally had Island, right? Funimation. So they released it physically on Blu-ray. And then in that time, they also released it as a budget version. And now it's out of print. And that had dub and sub. And the sub was obviously looked over again. So it would probably be better than the Crunchyroll subs that they were going to put on that disc for Front Wing as an extra reward. Like, it just tells you how, like, I had taken money out and put it to that type of tier, I would be ticked, because that tier, I think for that one for Island was like over $200 American or some nonsense price. And remember what the Funimation prices for Blu-rays are and stuff like that. Probably was $70 for the regular one. Then the one that was the reissue was probably $40. So imagine how much cheaper that was in American dollars, right? So it's interesting. Like, basically they've alienated the, like, it may be fine on the Japanese end and stuff like that. They're doing okay. Maybe they're happy with everything there, but it feels like they've neglected the English language side. And basically all those people that would have been talking about your show would have been the power users, basically telling people, hey, check this show out and stuff like that, have basically turned on them. And they've basically soured, I feel, the chance on the English community side and stuff like that. Because if you talk to those people that are really into it, it's like, well, I like the show, but it's like they're very sour on the experience and stuff like that. And then some of them probably would say on this anime side, you know what, maybe just go and check out the visual novels for Phantom Trigger, Gracia and stuff like that. And the reason for that too is Gracia Phantom Trigger, for the visual novel, it's like Witch on the Holy Night, where there aren't any choices. It's what they call a kinetic visual novel. So you're basically just reading as you go along and you're clicking through and stuff like that. And it's obviously it's not as good as if you saw it in the anime and stuff like that, because they did do great animation for the show. Let me tell you that. It was great watching it. And even on YouTube, it was nice to watch the 3 OVAs and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you want access, that is probably the best route, is the visual novels. And they're on Steam. They're also on Nintendo Switch and stuff like that. I decided to go Nintendo Switch and got some import physical versions from Japan and stuff like that, because it's nice to play in portable mode and read in portable mode. But the end of the day, it's nice that they did decide to continue on. It's interesting to see how this is going to even perform on Crunchyroll. It's probably not going to get a dub like those first 2 OVAs. It's I just don't know how they have a way forward and stuff like that. And I don't think they're going to get more fans, because, as we said, they just throw you into they skip the first 3 OVAs and basically say, here's a 120-second summary. We're just throwing you into the 4th visual novel and stuff like that. And here are the characters, which I don't think makes a new fan want to continue watching after episode 1, right? But all of them, I would say, after 6 years, they have their power users have now dubbed them Fraud Wing instead of Front Wing, and it just leaves you shaking your head.
Taste. I mean, well, okay. The only real experience I'll always talk about was my Kimagure Orange Road manga, and they didn't ship to Canada. I had to have that shipped to my cousins in the States, and then whenever I met up with them, I was able to get that. So presently, the only other Kickstarter anime related I'm personally doing is the Macross 2 one. We're going to talk a little more Macross later for sure. I know that.
And that's the interesting thing, is that we have Anime Ego, and Robert and Natsumi have developed the reputation that, yes, they have that date, and yes, it's probably going to be after the date for them delivering the rewards and stuff like that. But you know you're going to get those rewards. You know there's a timetable. You know you're getting consistent updates after they have gotten the money and stuff like that, to let you know how it's going on and stuff like that. It's not like you're in this vacuum and you don't understand what the heck is going on. And
Well,
obviously, whoever's updating it now for Front Wing compared to Dirty Pair, and even for the ones from Anime Ego, they're from Japan and stuff like that. And who knows what they're thinking? They've probably thrown up their hands and given up because everyone is basically turned on them and stuff like that.
the thing about, like, to be fair to Digital Mago during the Kimagure Orange Road one, they were upfront about Matsumoto Izumi's condition. Obviously, he died a few years later. In the case of Animigo, this is sort of the MO with Animigo too, right? The laid back attitude that by which they've presented themselves over the years has kind of endeared them to their customers. And and it's Robert and it's Natsumi, especially Robert, because he was very much the face and still kind of is, even though Justin Savakis now owns the company. He was like, the way he presented himself, the way what's the word? The self-deprecating way he often did things, and the sarcastic way they often did all their emailings, it generated a lot of goodwill over time with their customers. And many of those customers have flocked back to the Kickstarters over time.
And they had done, like, not crowdfunding as we know it now, but they had done that before, where they did pre-orders through their site and stuff like that. And one of the stories I know they talk about a lot is Macross and stuff like that, because they were going
Macross
well.
is probably
and then,
the original anime Kickstarter, really, right?
Mm-hmm. And then supposedly it had happened right there in like 2000, 2001. So they were doing well with the pre-orders and that. And then supposedly, obviously, 9/11 happened and a lot of people canceled because things happen, right? And everyone's situation changed. So, but they still managed to deliver and stuff like that. But it's interesting. They got more people involved with the Kickstarters and stuff like that. And there's that trust factor. But once you lose it, it's like gone.
No kidding.
Then in this case, not only does it basically affect these Kickstarters, it affects basically the brand themselves. Front Wing is them saying Fraud Wing and basically saying anything associated with them, it's going to be that question in the back of your head, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's that story, right? So what are you hoping for, or you're just not holding your breath? Because I don't want you to turn blue. I really
I'm basically sitting back, eating popcorn, watching all these people say things in the comments and stuff like that, the Kickstarter, and they sometimes reply to things from the Front Wing social media to kind of let them know, well, what are you doing with all those things you promised long ago in 2018, 2019 and stuff like that? Because yes, a lot of people got digital rewards. Yes, my name is actually in the credits of OVA 1 and 2. So if you had watched the YouTube OVA 1 and 2, you would see my name at the very end with the Kickstarter backers they listed, along with the Campfire ones. And OVA 3, since Campfire was involved, they only had those backers for Campfire on OVA 3. But we'll see what happens with these physical ones. Like, I think they really need to team up with someone, like, even though it's on Crunchyroll now, like maybe if they had tried to team up with Right Stuff or Crunchyroll or someone to kind of help them get these things manufactured and out the door, because something is gone seriously wrong with them and people are not happy. And all those people that would have been their biggest backers to promote like the new Garcia series or maybe future series have that sour taste in their mouth, and now are basically not going to be your biggest supporters to promote your series going forward, right? Like, to spread the word in a positive light.
Well, no,
and it's a different way than the Dirty Pair Kickstarters we've talked about before and stuff like that, because that has left a sour thing in your mouth. But at least I know with Dirty Pair, I think we're going to get that. I have more faith we're going to get that than we are basically Garcia Phantom Trigger.
So you're at peace. It's a theme
Yeah,
we've been
no,
using.
well, you know that with any Kickstarter that there's no guarantees and stuff like that. And when I did it originally in 2018 and stuff like that, I was like, okay, we'll get this digital stuff. And I said, okay, I think we'll probably be okay if they make the right decisions to get this physical edition. And that's really the only thing they have left to deliver to a lot of the backers is just the physical Blu-ray with OVA 1 and 2 on it, with the dub.
Yeah.
The dub
Well, at
that
least,
no one's ever seen except for maybe 2 minutes of it in a
well,
Kickstarter
just
update.
yeah. I mean, they said either 120,000 in funding or 700 backers. They reached the 700 plateau. I know that. I know people will say
Yeah,
it was only just a
reached
little over
they reached the
100,000,
backer
but
level, so that's why.
and that was
So they
their.
spent this
And I
money
guess
on a dub that's not going to see the light of day and stuff like that unless they do something with OVA 1, 2, and 3, like maybe put it on Crunchyroll with the series and stuff like that, and maybe allow the dub of 1 and 2 to show up and stuff like that.
it's Kickstarter. I mean, I'm trying to remember how many I funded over the years and never got anything. 1, 2. I can think of maybe at least 4 off the top of my head. At least 4 myself
no,
when I was into doing those things. Right.
Yeah, there's a few here and there where you give a little bit. I think one of the other ones, which was physical, that we never got anything from, was the guy who did the Tezuka manga, The Crater, and he had done that Kickstarter. He was from Florida, and that he crashed and burned so hard, and so people lost their money on that. And then years later, Digital Manga, one of the successful Kickstarters that they did deliver, basically had the Crater as a part of it as a stretch goal, which they reached, and then they did print it and release it out to the wild and stuff like that. So it did get out. It's just not through the original Kickstarter.
And presumably, the backers got nothing out of it?
Yeah, from that one from the fella in Florida, and those people were really angry. I remember with that one, they actually had a story like with a local news crew in Florida that was interested in it and was going to do something about that one. That was like, I want to say 10 years ago or something like that.
What can you do, dude? Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see if they find any fans for Phantom Trigger and stuff like that. That'll be intriguing, especially since, like, how do you get fans if you just drop people into a series and only give them 120 seconds to see what had happened before?
What can you do? Anyway, I know you want to get that off your chest, so you had a lot to say about that, though.
Well, there was actually a lot with that. Like, it's so weird, all the twists and turns, like even Front Wing not being their own company anymore, that basically Bushy Road has bought them up a few years ago, and it's still an issue and stuff like that.
Well,
like you figured someone could help them, but nothing, no breaks.
Nope, none whatsoever. But hey, keep me informed. Keep me informed on this one. I don't think I'm not expecting too much, to be honest, the way you've termed it.
Yeah, well, the last update, as I said, was in February 2024. So maybe if they get off their bums, they might be able to get one next month in a year. You know what I mean? After a year of waiting.
Oh, yeah. The anniversary. Sure. Why not? Anyway. Okay.
But you know how it is for the beginning of the years. They like to say everyone in a few industries are going to Las Vegas for CES and stuff like that. So you never know what announcements are going to come out of there, right?
Always good with the segues, as usual, James. Okay,
well, I know most people were talking about Switch 2 and stuff like that. That was obviously the big thing from CES, and people showing molds and all this other stuff, and that is intriguing and stuff like that. We'll see what happens when they announce it later, but for our show, it was interesting enough that there were some interesting announcements from Sony, from Crunchyroll, and then even on the tech side, there was some interesting ones from VLC and stuff like that, the company that does VLC, because they were looking at subtitling for your videos that you have on your computer, but instead of it being an online platform, they're going to somehow use AI from your computer to translate your videos automatically offline, which who knows how that's going to turn out, because we've seen how that's worked in the online sphere and stuff like that, and even on YouTube and other platforms, how they've tried to put it in there. And success is, how do you put it, minimal.
Is that the one you want to focus there for a couple minutes?
Like
on the VLC
it's
one?
It's interesting and stuff like that, because we have talked about it before, I think more in the manga side, so to speak. And it is interesting that they have all this content, right, on the anime side, on the manga side, and they want to get it over. And the problem is also, it just is way too much content to get over and to try to actually get enough people to properly, you know what I mean, localize it and subtitle it and dub it and do whatever, depending on the series and depending on how far they want to go. So a lot of them, as we saw on the manga side, have been looking at AI translation, and we've seen that your mileage may vary greatly, as we've seen with that. And now, obviously, we know it's going to come to video at some point. We've seen it in different forms, but now this is another form we're seeing in CES Las Vegas with VLC and Videoland, and how they're going to try to do their version of it, but it's basically going to be open source AI models running on your machine and stuff like that, as they said, working offline, which is a different component to what we've never seen really before. It's mostly been involving being online and stuff like that. And it's been different platforms have tried their hand at it and are probably still trying their hand at it with YouTube and other video sites.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember the days where you could, make your own timed subs and be able to put them in as files on videos, and then you can send those out with fan subs or with blank, with raw video. So this is an interesting step. We've had a long conversation about translations in the past. So,
and as we said, the nuance is going to be the hardest part. As we know, nuance is the hardest part, and that's the human aspect. And can these, like, AI algorithms, can these machines and stuff like that pick that up? And a lot of the time the answer is no, they cannot do that. So it's going to be interesting, because people keep trying and trying, and you never know, sooner or later maybe one of them gets lucky, right? But I'm not too sure about that.
Well,
because you still need that human touch, right?
That's what the translators out there will always say, and I'm not to disagree. I don't generally disagree with that sentiment. However, where some of our fandom could be too. They'll probably they probably don't want that context, that feeling. They just want that literal translation. But remember what I've always said about translations. It's not about word. It's more than just word for word. It's context and what it leaves you feeling when you hear a phrase when it's spoken, or when you hear the proper tone given. So your one for one isn't just in words. It's in impressions. It's in feelings. I mean,
the other problem, as we've seen, is it's not always one-to-one. They don't always even get the one-to-one aspect. And so then it's the question of, is it good enough? And some of the people seem to think, is it good enough? And they think it is, when it really may not be, right? So,
well, when we have entire school subjects trying to interpret what an author said in the same language some years back, like decades, centuries back, in literature. Imagine what it's like when we're talking different languages. So, okay. I mean, the techie side of me is fascinated as to eventually see what will happen, but it's an interesting development. So maybe not so surprising, considering all the talk with things like it kind of brings together two things that we have talked about in recent years on the podcast: translations and AI. So
it'll be interesting to see where it goes and stuff like that, because, as we said, it's a dime a dozen with AI stories and all this stuff. But is another stone on the road that looked intriguing to keep an eye on, because you never know where these things can go, because it could turn into nothing. It might turn into something years from now, right?
Yeah. Okay, so should we go back to our favorite whipping boy topic, Crunchyroll, for a couple minutes?
Yeah, supposedly they need to figure out a way for people to upgrade their subscriptions, or so they said on Monday at CES. So they were talking about launching a manga app later this year in English in the United States and Canada. And who knows how this is going to go, because they had, as we remember, and we had talked about on the podcast before many times, a manga app on the site. It was a la carte and stuff like that. You could go in and read and stuff like that. The mobile app is, from what we had remembered and what people reminded people again, was broken. So who knows if they'll have a proper mobile app for the new manga app launching later this year and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see who they get to join them, because remember when they first did it, they had Kodansha USA give them some Kodansha manga and stuff like that. And it was when Kodansha pulled away and decided to do K manga that they kind of shut down the whole Crunchyroll manga thing. And that was available, remember, Crunchyroll manga, to all the tiers. So even if you were at the lowest tier like us, you could access and stuff like that. I don't think they're going to allow that this time. I think it's going to be like their mobile video game vault that we had talked about before, that hasn't seen as much success for them, where that's in the highest tier. Like I could see them adding the manga app to maybe those two highest tiers, not the tier we're on, which is the bottom one, which is just for the streaming and stuff like that.
Recap for me, because it's been a year since I was there. What are the tiers again with Crunchyroll? Because I need a refresher.
To tell you the honest truth, there's I think we're now, because they keep changing them, right? I just gave up on them, but I think it's fan, and then there's ultimate, and then ultimate could be the highest tier, but there's another tier, so it's like 3 tiers and stuff like that. And I know they do give discounts to, obviously,
3 paid tiers, right? So
correct. And basically they kind of do give you a bit of a discount to the Crunchyroll store, which used to be Right Stuff. So the lowest tier gets 5%, 10% for the second tier, and then the third highest tier gets 15% off. And then the third highest tier, I know, gets access to that video game mobile vault, right? They can get access to that. And then for both of those, all the different tiers, remember offline viewing and stuff like that? I think that's involved too, of how many
that's only in that starts, I believe, on the second tier, not the first.
And that's what my gut was telling me there, that second and the final tier have that ability, and it depends how many you can take offline.
Yeah, and you're guessing second and third tier will be the ones where where the manga service could be.
Yeah, because they want people to upgrade, right? Because I think most people are on that.
Sure, they got to make up. Yeah, well, they have to make up the 25 for 25 shortfall in some form.
The question is, they got to actually show us they can run a manga app, because they didn't show that to us before. And they also, you had the series at the beginning, but then it just kind of petered out. And it's like they forgot about, it was this tab they just totally forgot about on their website that was just kind of there. So they actually have to actively show people that we're going to support this, we're going to get some manga, we're going to have it there for you, that maybe there's some exclusives in there, and that it's going to actually work on our phones and on our tablets and stuff like that for the mobile application. Unlike the last time, like there's a lot for them to prove, for people to say, hey, I want to upgrade my subscription so I can read some manga with Crunchyroll, right? And I'm not sure if they can do it, considering how they launched the video game vault for the highest tier, which people said it kind of didn't work out as well as they had hoped, right? As we heard from that one article we had talked about in one of the previous episodes.
Yes, and maybe maybe the attempt and the announcement of this attempt makes sense. I mean, we should have seen that coming when we were talking about their increased stake, or their what is it? Their high stake, I guess now in their highest control,
Katakawa.
their highest stake in Katakawa. Or what's the phrase? Highest major stake, right? So maybe it makes sense. We should have seen that. I mean, we tried to speculate. Okay, what will they do with some of the publishing parts? Because they don't really
obviously they don't have control and stuff like that, as we said, but they have this business relationship and this synergy and stuff that they're going to be working together in this like relationship. And that does make sense, where it's like, obviously they want the content. They don't want to actually be releasing the physical manga, the physical light novels and stuff like that. But they're interested in saying, hey, we could take that content and then bring it over to our digital platform and do it digitally and stuff like that. And so that probably was an inroad there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all always about getting inside track anyway, considering, well, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, competition for anime content has become a little bit more fierce. And go ahead.
I was thinking, like, the other thing is, depending on how they do it, yeah, you're going to want some series that and stuff like that, and some of them may already be on Crunchyroll. But it'll be interesting to see later on, do they start to go after some of those series they think will be hot, and they think, hey, we want to be on that committee to then get it out as an anime on our platform, right? And you never know. We could see that if they get it right.
Yeah. But kind of hopefully maybe second time's a charm in this case, right? Hopefully second time will be a charm. But hey, who knows?
And look at that, Mike. I was going to say we have a new follower, so that is
let's acknowledge.
Right there.
Let's acknowledge Hina Mizawa victim. You sure we're not somebody we know already? Because we've only had friends come and watch anything we've ever done, whether it's online.
I think given the image, you can probably have a good idea of who it may be.
Who's your guess? Yeah, you're right. The image is familiar. Oh, it's not Kevin.
It's Please Kevin? Teacher. Yes, it would be Kevin.
It's Kevin. Where the hell is he from? Oh,
he's going to an anime con and took a minute out of his time to listen to us and take out his data from his data plan.
Well, hope things are. If it is you, Kevin, I hope the show there is going okay today.
Well, given When They Cry and the fact that it has Please Teacher, I think we're on the right track on that one.
Anyway,
but we'll see what happens with the manga if they can get it right this time. But if they can get a good synergy, yeah, that would be interesting to see how it plays out with Katakawa and maybe getting some of those series and then making it that they get maybe a few of them that we don't know they're on the committee and that's going to be an anime, but they know because they feel it's going to be a hot thing, but getting the manga so they can pump the, you know what I mean? The prime or whatever.
Well, people were in that Bloomberg article. There was criticism. It mentioned the criticism that are they spreading themselves? Is Crunchyroll spreading themselves too thin? But manga's not as much a stretch away from anime. So maybe there's some. So I mean, it seemed it didn't feel when the manga service closed a couple of years back. It didn't always, if there was one thing that was going to close, maybe. Well, as I said, the manga feels a little bit more to the core, right? Not so much. I'm not totally so sure about the other things, but this feels a little bit more to the core. So, and they need some good press. Yeah, Crunchyroll.
You actively got to support it and stuff like that. You can't just hang on the vine, and that's why the first one closed.
Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. Well, and then of course, how many are going to wish for its failure as well? On the topic of
this should be an easy putt for them to get in the hole, so to speak, if they get it right. But you never know. Companies, it looks like a slam dunk, and it backfires in their face, right? So we'll see how it goes with new Crunchyroll manga, right? And
yeah, people are cheering for both outcomes, though. A lot of people will be cheering for either outcome. So I could almost say 50-50. All right. Let's continue here because we got a little.
There was another CES one from Sony, and it actually involved almost all of their parts of Sony, so to speak, in a way. And it was interesting because we had talked about The Last of Us and them for PlayStation Productions teaming up with HBO and Prestige TV, right? And I would have thought this Ghost of Tsushima would have actually been one of the ones they would have wanted to say, hey, let's make this a live action, let's make it prestige, let's go to HBO, and they could have done something interesting. But they announced this week at CES, as you can see. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is an anime series that they're going to make, and it's going to be Crunchyroll, Aniplex, Sony Music, and PlayStation Productions together collaborating to make this anime to premiere it in 2027. And it's not going to be some sort of clip show like we've seen with Batman, with Halo, and some of those others, you know what I mean, where they got animation auteurs to do their take on the character and stuff like that. It sounds like it's going to be, this is an anime series, and it may be about what we've seen before, but it may be something completely different. But maybe it is completely different because it says Legends, right?
So you think it's a new plot? Nothing...
It could be new. Like, it's hard to say. Like, we don't know anything about it yet, but we'll see what happens. So we know we have the original Ghost of Tsushima, then the new one that they're working on now, Ghost of Yotai. And then maybe by the time Yotai, because I'm not sure, maybe it'll come out in 2026. We'll see what happens. But you never know with delays and things like that. This anime and the next game could come out at the same time. You never know.
Who knows, right?
But they have done stuff, obviously. Now, it wasn't their property per se, but remember there was Nier Automata and stuff like that, that it got turned into an anime and stuff like that. So it seems like, obviously, you'd want to dip into some of their own properties and things like that. And PlayStation Productions is involved, and they're the arm that's trying to get those games made into like something else, whether it be anime, whether it be live action for either movies or TV or something.
TV or movies, right? And it's like we've always said, Sony has a bunch of IP, and it's not bad IP. You gotta, Uncharted, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima.
And Uncharted, I think they're trying to turn into a live action through the movie sphere and stuff like that. So they've tried different things. So it's interesting that for Ghost of Tsushima, they're going to go the animation route. And it seems like all their parts are going to probably be working, or most of their parts of Sony are going to be working out, because we got Crunchyroll, we got Aniplex, we got Sony Music, we got PlayStation Productions, which is the video game side and stuff like that.
So here are those pillars that we were talking about, that we talked about like 3-4 years ago.
Because, remember we were talking about how they were working all independently, and now it's like, well, what happens if we can get them to all kind of work together and stuff like that, and see, and we're starting to see some of that more, and we'll see how that works out in the future.
So there's Ghost of Tsushima. Have you played the game?
It was good. Yeah, I played the game. I got the PS5 version and stuff like that. I wait for the PS5, and it is quite an incredible thing. And like the other thing is, you can play it just as it normally is, but then there's like, I want to say the black and white mode and stuff like that, kind of like a Kurosawa movie, you know what I mean? Like something like that. And that's incredible to play it a bit like that as well.
I have a copy of the director's cut sitting here, and I just, as I said, I haven't given myself the time to really play. So,
and then as we said, a lot of people in Japan really enjoyed it and said, this is really great, and we're really impressed with what Sucker Punch had been able to produce and stuff like that, because it's that thing of, it's almost something our native home would produce, and that's a great compliment, right? And other people have had that come in their face. I know Ubisoft in recent days and recent months has had that issue with the new Assassin's Creed game and stuff like that, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and we'll see how that pans out on that one, which is coming out in March. But I'm not sure, because they've had so many roadblocks in the opposite directions of Ghosts of Tsushima, because both of them are set in historic Japan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I'll give it. I have to give myself time to play. That's really it is. Really what it is. Okay. Well, okay. So we just finished up talking about an electronics convention out in Las Vegas. You want to start? You want to end by coming close to home again?
Oh, we can, of course. It's going to be interesting. I know you had. We'll talk about the home one, I guess, last. But I know you sent me an interesting, or some of us, an interesting link yesterday about. I guess, do we want to call it a new Toronto Con for 2025?
I thought we'd go to that one second.
Oh, you thought you'd go to that side? You want to talk about the one that sponsors us, Anime North, huh?
Sponsors to say we get money. It's a fan-run show. Nobody makes money there. Yeah, of course, that's another discussion altogether, right?
But Anime North 2025, we know when it is. We always know when Anime North is. It's always the Memorial Day weekend every year, and we know that a lot of those weekend passes go very quick and stuff like that. And those passes for Anime North, they started to go on sale yesterday, on Saturday, January 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And it's been a while since some of us buy passes, but it's interesting that they had 2,500 early bird weekend passes. Those all sold out by the afternoon, so they're no longer available. But they didn't seem too bad for those early birds. 2,500 people got it at $60 Canadian plus fees and stuff like that. And I remember way back when I went, I think it was like $50 for the weekend, and that was all in.
It's yeah. I mean,
and I think it's 70 regular is what they're saying after that.
So not horrible. Look, I wonder how long it took. I wonder how long it really did take, and how it for all those passes to go, and if it's a record for all of them going. Although, and we'll ask Chris sometime. I guess we'll ask Chris Nabelski at some point.
I think it's probably about the same, because they probably go very quick every year, because remember, Anime North has been going on for a very long time, so it's a well-oiled machine, and that's one part of the well-oiled machine, so they know that
you know what my
people are going to come back again and again, right? Because we're coming to see people we may see only once a year, the camaraderie ship, and some people come for the guests, some people like, there's so many reasons you can come to Anime North, as we know. So a lot of people, I think the price is still worth it, whether you paid $60 or $70 or whatever, or got one of the single day passes, because I think weekend passes usually will sell out closer to the con, and then, as we know, the single day passes, Saturday usually sells out, I know, closer to the con before, but sometimes you might be able to get in on Friday or Sunday.
And then the last of those weekend passes are usually transferred. Well, you know the story. The thing is, the punchline in all of this early pre-reg is probably going to happen. It's tomorrow, isn't it? The hotels go up tomorrow.
Yeah, so they said at 9 a.m. tomorrow, the hotels go up, and they said, here's the portal. You go to this portal, and then you go to whichever hotel you want to, and they give you an idea of what the fees and all that are going to be for the different hotels and how far away they are from Anime North. But we'll see if this one works out, because I know they've done it at noon hour. I know they've done it randomly where no one knew when it was going to show up, and it showed up, and then obviously all hell broke loose. But we'll see if
a story. The hotels are always a story. What was the record? How long did it take for the hotels to go last year and the year before? What's the over-under on that, and what's the over-under on, well, the complaints? Whatever your guess is on how many people will complain, take the over anyway. That's probably, and well, you said on the topic of well-oiled machines, how much of that was always in AN's own hands, right? So I think we know, it's going to be rough goings, especially for that scramble to get hotel rooms anywhere within walking distance of the AN compound, as I like to call it. So
it's going to be interesting because obviously we know it's probably going to be gone very quickly. We know that it's 9 a.m. We know basically people are going to be trying to click through, and do they have the systems to handle it for the hotels and stuff like that? Because I'm guessing a lot of that is on their end. So it's tough on both sides and stuff like that. And I don't think they've quite got, it doesn't feel like they've quite got right every single year. Something always happens, right? And it's never in the good realm.
Nope.
So they keep trying, but one day they'll get it right, right?
Amy, if you hear this, let me hear about your experience. I know you'll try to get a.
I think when in doubt, go Airbnb. You can pay even more to them, right?
Yeah, check the going rates. Okay.
I don't know. Like I'd be intrigued to see for Anime North how that affects a certain like area, right, around the compound, so to speak, for Airbnbs. If how it compares compared to the hotels and stuff like that.
There are some residences within a 20-minute walk, I guess, from the compound.
But I think most of them would be driving distance, unfortunately. So
just
that's probably what would affect people, obviously.
I mean, when Jesse came to AN pre-pandemic some years back, I think it was in 2019. That's what it was, right? He took out an Airbnb, couldn't get a hotel at the time, but mileage varies. And that's what. But we're also learning now. Okay, we shouldn't be surprised to know about this. This is the one we wanted. The other thing we want to talk about. As pre-reg opened up at Anime North, we knew. Well, most of us knew this would happen sooner or later, right? After Anime Toronto folded at the end of 2023 and into 2024, and no sign that. And we've always talked about Anime Toronto and its connections apparently to the people who actually run Anime Revo out in Vancouver. When the announcement was made that Anime Toronto was not happening and that the organizing, that there were some fractures within that organization, and that the Anime Revo component decided to leave it, the announcement at the time was they intended to bring the Anime Revolution branding into Toronto at some point. And what better time to announce that you are going to have an Anime Revolution Toronto than on the same weekend as Anime North tickets go on sale for the first time. November 21st to the 23rd, a week before American Thanksgiving, a week before Black Friday at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. Yep, Anime Revolution Toronto is now set for the North Wing, basically the same area again as and
it's probably going to have the exact same setup and stuff like that, because we've seen the layout from their Vancouver shows, and it was a similar layout they used for Anime Toronto and stuff like that. So definitely Anime Revo helped them on that end, and with their ticket pricing, which was similar scheme. And we're seeing the same thing here for for Anime Revo Toronto and stuff like that. So if you go, you can buy tickets now. They are $50 till end of April. And then, of course, we have the special expensive passes if you really want to ignite your passion, as they say.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Well, that's what they said on their site, so we're just saying it how they say it. But it's obviously they talk about express lines. You know what's funny? They talk about express lines. They don't say anything about the autograph lines. But obviously, they get express line privilege for the autograph lines, I'm sure, too, for those premium pass holders. And the rest of us just kind of had to fight it out like we always do.
Guests to be announced, right? Guests to be announced. But something to look forward to. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like all of them, basically, as you said, it's just them saying, hey, we're going to be here in Toronto. They wanted to be here in Toronto. Give everyone a heads up. They gave us, obviously, till end of April, and obviously they're probably going to announce one guest before then so that people can make up their mind either way. We know from experience that they definitely do have a pipeline of Japanese guests, so there could be some interesting Japanese guests at this event and stuff like that. And obviously mileage may vary depending on what type of guest you're hoping for. And the price isn't that bad for if you want to get in early at $50 and stuff like that. And compared to any Revo in Vancouver, which is in the beginning of August, which is the holiday weekend of Civic Holiday, that one is basically a little more expensive since obviously that's one they've done for a number of years. So they only are giving their fans in Vancouver $65 for the early bird compared to $50 for us. So they're still trying to build a base out here in Toronto, even though there were two shows they kind of helped out with before. So we'll see how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll see how they do for the dealer's floor with the Artist Alley, because I know that was a big talking point of the last two conventions. So,
yeah. Well, okay. Quickly on the date, November 21st to 23rd. What do you want to say about the date? I mean, we kept talking about, okay, what would be an ideal date? Because the first two incarnations, the first two attempts from anybody in this group, IFF, Anime Toronto, those happened during major holidays. I think the Easter holiday during the first go around in 2019. 2023,
yep. It was
Thanksgiving
Easter holiday.
Yeah, or was it either Thanksgiving weekend? No, it wasn't Thanksgiving weekend. It was the week after. It was the week after Fan Expo.
Yeah, so basically the first one was an Easter weekend, and the second one that after the pandemic was Labor Day weekend after Anime Expo, as you said. So obviously not many people going to the convention center, so they probably got a good date on that. And interesting on the date, but probably does make sense because it keeps it away from their show in August and stuff like that, because obviously they had to do a lot of planning probably on that last one, right? But probably not as much because they had the other partners. But if it's all them involved, I mean, Anime Revo has to be all in on this. They probably got to make sure that, okay, we want to get our Vancouver show done, but we also want to get our Toronto show done. So you don't want them too close together so that they don't exhaust their staff out, right? Because they're going to have to, I think a lot of them are based out in Vancouver. And think about that. They have to be out in Vancouver. Then they got to fly to Toronto and get all that stuff done out here. The
major stuff, yeah. And of course, there'll be volunteers in a group helping run some of the stuff that'll happen specifically here in Toronto.
And then the other thing is probably not many cons during that time and stuff like that, because remember, Anime NYC or that big New York con moved from November to basically competing with Fan Expo in the end of August and stuff like that.
So maybe it's not the worst choice. It's just maybe.
So probably they have a chance and stuff like that in that end of November time slot and stuff like that. Like fall, early winter, which is kind of October, November, probably sounds good for them and stuff like that. Because a lot of the other things you would worry about, snow and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So, welcome back. What was his name? What was the gentleman's name that ran Anime Revo? I forgot his name. That's the problem.
I forgot his name as well, to tell you the honest truth. But obviously, when they had announced that they were going to be stepping back and stuff like that, and said whatever Anime Toronto, whatever that crew wants to do, that's up to them. So it didn't sound too good, but they left the door open saying that they like what they saw in Toronto. So obviously they like what they saw in Toronto because they decided to come back again, just like they said they were hoping to and stuff like that. It's because they'd obviously made connections with the Metro Convention Center and some other connections to try and see if they can make a go of it themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously have connections in Japan to get some good Japanese guests and stuff like that. And that's a part of their draw and stuff like that, I know.
Well, it's a it was what carried them, I think, through the first 2 attempts. So I'll be curious. As I said, I'll be really curious to see what eventually.
And I know they got some V tours on the second attempt too, as well. So we'll see how that goes too. So.
Anyway, that's so. There's our quick look around, or quick whip around of some of the stuff that happened this week. As I said, there's there's a lot of other interesting stuff, but I know that the others are better at talking about it than we are, and maybe we'll give Kevin, Mo, and Amy their say. Finally,
Kevin says hi from Scarborough.
Yes, I did see that. What's up? Well,
not from Hinamazawa, but from Scarborough.
Yeah,
and it's not 1984.
Is it? Where's that coming from? Anyway,
that's when They Cry actually took place.
Oh,
he's a Hinamazawa victim.
Good reference. Anyway, I think that's about it. How did the experiment go? How did the first experiment in a few years go, James? Do you think it went okay?
Yeah, it probably went okay and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes.
Well, here's the thing. Was it now 7 years ago when we restarted? When we came back? When we restarted, it still sticks in my head what you said as we started version 2. Just said, let's just hit the record button. Let's see what comes out. Right? What's there right now is we're still trying to figure out our own way around. But also, admittedly, we never really tried too hard to really make the show any more, get a larger listenership, larger viewership. We never really pushed the show really hard on the socials. We're going to try a little bit more. But we're, the story. We are who we are. We are where we are right now. Lots has happened over time, and a lot more people are in the content creation, are in the social sphere, whatever the terms you want to use, and have handled it better, and really know their way around. I mean, it's good to be young, isn't it? I mean, I know you're younger than me, but James, but everybody else who does this type of stuff, good on you. I'm envious, and maybe I want to learn a little bit more from you. But we have to start somewhere, right? So glad to finally be on the visuals again. Hope whoever's watching here, the couple of people who have come in and out of watching the stream, thanks for doing so. We're at this point anyway, since there's so few people who will be watching. I'll probably acknowledge every person who comes to watch as we're taping, or as we're streaming, or as we're recording, or doing anything. So thank you for saying something in the chat. But in any event, you know where to find anyone who's listening, or anyone who's listened or watching. Here's where you find us. We're ultimately not hard to find. AnimeRoundtable.com. For now, it's a Linktree page. It's a landing page. It'll give you our links to just about anything else. If you found us on Twitch, you already know where to find us, at least there. But in any event, easily on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I know that's an old one. I'll edit it. We're on Blue Sky now at Anime Roundtable as well. But we're off and running, and hopefully next time we'll talk with I'll talk with Kevin, who says he couldn't record, so he was watching. Thanks, Kevin. Knew it was you. We knew all along. Figured. Amy, Mo, hopefully we'll get the chance to talk with them in a bit. But beyond that, this is a podcast.
Someone doesn't want you to acknowledge them.
Oh yeah, okay. How do I pronounce that? Mahara Jamid. Is that how I pronounce it? Thanks for tuning in. Well, the thing is, I can only acknowledge anybody who's. I can only acknowledge those who actually say something in the chat. So thanks for saying something. So to everybody who did tune in, thanks. And we're off and running. We'll do this again pretty soon. Just trust me on this. And Kevin, see, 2025, we did do something on the stream. Talk to you later.